Most people are shocked to learn that the FDA is not actively regulating chemicals in our food. It's crazy because some regulations are based off of studies that came out 65 to 70 years ago, and nothing has been updated since. There's a provision that says generally recognized as safe and allows the industry to use chemicals they deem safe enough to be included in food. It's a really big issue.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show.
Welcome to the Dr. Ashley Show. I'm Dr. Ashley, and today we are going to unwrap the truth behind the food dyes and chemicals that we find in our food. I want you to stick with me because I'm going to provide you lots of tips on how to be an advocate for yourself so that you can avoid any of these unhealthy food dyes and chemicals. I want to make sure that you can make informed choices for the foods that you feed yourself, your kids, and your grandkids. The sad truth is that some of these dyes and chemicals found in our food really are toxic. You would hope that the FDA or whatever associations or administrations that monitor our food would sell us just those that ensure our safety and well-being, but unfortunately, it's not that simple. I think oftentimes money and power come into play. So you really do have to be an advocate for yourself. Knowledge is power, and that is my mission on this podcast, on this episode today, is to empower you with the correct information so that you can make wise choices for you and your family. In previous episodes, I've shared some stories about my kids, and I have one of my sons who struggles, or I wouldn't even say the word struggles, but overcomes and works with ADHD. I actually think that ADHD is a gift. I look at it like a race car brain with bicycle brakes, and he's just working to learn how to up-level those brakes so he can drive his brain like a Porsche. And when he eats specific foods, it acts like a major accident on a big highway. And that's what happens when he specifically eats Skittles. Oh my gosh, I look at those Skittles as evil little UFO-shaped things that take over his mind and his body. It is wild. He will have 5 of those things, and it's like there's a different kid in there. It is major highs and inconsolable cries on the other side. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is happening to him? And there is no control that he has over his mind or his body when he takes in those Skittles. It was probably 2 Halloweens ago, and he was looking at me and said, "Hey mom, can I have this bag of Skittles?" I'm like, you know what? Go for it if you really want. But dude, are you sure you want this bag of Skittles? And he looked at me, he's like, yeah, you're right. Like, it makes him super uncomfortable, not just me watching the impact of it. And so a few months ago, out came this ban on Skittles. And I was like, aha, I knew it. I knew there was something up with these evil candies. And so I thought that that was really interesting. And I also think that it's really sad because for all of these years, we've been eating this mind-rotting, cancer-forming food that has these chemicals and food dyes in them. And you're thinking, what the heck? Just now they're banning these ingredients found in Skittles? What's going on? It's really difficult out there. I think especially with kids. For us, we have somewhat of a knowledge base as adults, and I know it's still hard to say no, but we have more personal responsibility over things. With our kids, I find that it's such a challenge because just like with us, peer pressure seems to be even higher. I took my same son out to a birthday party a few months ago, and it was a laser tag party. And they had, of course, pizza and cakes and pop. And my son doesn't love the way pop makes him feel, and so he'll drink water instead. And I think, okay, great, making wise choices here, finding balance as a kid. And then he goes into the laser tag shop with all the kids, and they all come out with bright blue or bright green or bright red, green, and blue rainbow slushies. And all the parents are just like, oh my God, like, we know what it's doing to the kids, but there's such peer pressure there. Wouldn't it be nice if you walk into this laser tag store and there's a slushie for kids and you know that it's not going to at least have toxic chemicals and food dyes in it? I mean, the sugar is toxic enough for them, but it's just really difficult. And, I also understand, and we need to understand, that the dose makes the poison. But for a lot of us, the dose is just too high, and it's too often. It's a big issue. For my kid, anything more than 5 Skittles is going to send him way off. And that slushie, by the way, he had 2 sips of it and was like, oh my gosh, this is even too much for me, and had to throw it away. But a lot of people don't have those levers of knowledge in their body. A lot of kids don't understand that, and the amount that they're eating is just too much. We know certain food dyes, we know certain chemicals affect a sensitive, more reactive, but very intelligent ADHD brain. So why would we feed these foods to anyone? Even if they can seemingly tolerate it, we know what it does to the body. Tolerating doesn't equal optimal, you guys. We want optimal. We can also bet if it impacts the brain in this way, you better bet that it negatively impacts other organs in the body just as significantly. So last March in California, there was a bill passed aiming to ban the use of red dye number 3 and 4 other chemicals in food products due to potential risks linked to cancer, memory loss, behavioral issues, and reproductive problems. The bill has had some pushback, if you can believe it, from the National Confectioners Association, which represents the candy industry, and the International Association for Color Manufacture, and those are the people who manufacture the color for all of these candies. And they said that the California actions are based on sound scientific assessment. But since sugar in general is really terrible, and I can't see much of what these 2 associations say not being heavily biased toward keeping colorful sugar in all its varied forms on the shelves, I really can't believe what they're saying. I don't know how you feel about it. But what's also interesting about these 4 chemicals that they are trying to ban is that red dye number 3 specifically was banned in cosmetics because of the link it had to cancer in the 1990s. And the FDA said that it was going to take steps at that time to restrict the red dye number 3 after that, but it never did until California placed this bill in their hands. Most people are shocked to learn that the FDA is not actively regulating chemicals in our food. It's crazy because some regulations are based off of studies that came out 65 to 70 years ago, and nothing has been updated since. The U.S. is pretty far behind other countries like Europe when it comes to food safety. And there's a provision that says generally recognized as safe and allows the industry to use chemicals they deem safe enough to be included in food. But the thing is, the amounts aren't listed. And when considering, like we've been talking about, kids eating these foods and how much they're eating of them, it's a really big issue. These chemicals and food dyes are found in cereals, candies, treats, and the amounts really add up. So although this bill that I'm discussing here specifically says a ban on Skittles, all it's really requiring them to do is to change the recipe. Honestly, I think Skittles in and of themselves should be banned because they're just junk food and don't do anything good for anybody. But this bill is requiring them to change the recipe by 2027. It impacts other sugar, candies, and treats like Pez, Peeps, Fruit by the Foot, Hostess, Ding Dongs, Candy Corn, and Yoo-Hoo strawberry drink. I mean, all crap food none of us should have in our diet if we want to feel good, look good, and live optimally, right? Don't you agree? So the other chemicals in this bill that they're trying to ban includes brominated vegetable oil, and this is a synthetic chemical used to emulsify oil and water and trying to keep certain citrus ingredients combined and emulsified. The potential damage could be to our heart, liver, kidneys, thyroid function, and nervous system. Possible decreases in fertility, and you can find it in Sundrop and Mountain Dew and certain generic citrus drinks. Potassium bromate is another ingredient that they're trying to ban, and it's a synthetic flour additive designed to strengthen dough, make it tougher, and increase the rise higher than it would naturally do so. This is also linked to cancer, specifically thyroid, kidney, and other organs found in animals and potentially in humans. And it is in foods like certain common baked goods, white, wheat, and French bread, tortillas, and flour. So make sure you look on the back of the label. And if you are buying these products, no potassium bromate. The other one is propylparaben, and this has been a preservative found in baked goods to prevent bacteria and mold growth. And it was originally found in cosmetics, but has recently been banned. It's shown to cause endocrine disruption and probably harmful effects in reproduction, diminished fertility, specifically in animal tests and probably in humans as well. It's found in certain desserts and pastries like Sara Lee and Little Debbie. Don't eat Little Debbie. We don't need to support Little Debbie. She's fine on her own, even though she's little. She doesn't make us little, though. The trail mixes, donuts, cookies, tortillas, so you want to avoid propylparaben as well. And then red dye number 3, which we talked about a little bit. It's artificial food coloring agent used to give food and drinks that bright cherry red. It is banned in Europe. The only place you can find it in Europe for some reason is in those like maraschino cherries that you would find in a Shirley Temple or some kind of alcoholic drink. They're like, it's okay if it's in there, but the rest of the candy is a no-go. And the reason why they're trying to ban that here in the US is because it's linked to adverse neurobehavioral outcomes in children like my son, and it's linked to cancer and thyroid tumors in animals, and they're saying likely in humans. So like I said, found in artificially flavored and colored candies, certain holiday candies like gumdrops, candy corns, Valentine's hearts, and strawberry flavored drinks. So when you're looking at a food label, you're going to make sure that they don't have these 4 ingredients in them. I want to dive into some common misconceptions and truths about food dyes because they are all over the place. So the first misconception is that all food dyes are made from chemicals. And the truth is that while many synthetic dyes are from chemicals, there are a lot of natural food dyes derived from plant sources. So that is going to definitely, of course, be your best bet. The second misconception that's very common is that food dyes are always harmful. And the truth is that not all food dyes are inherently harmful. But if you are suspect, that is respectable. And you can just follow a whole food-based diet that doesn't require anything that has chemicals or food dyes, and you're going to be much better off for that anyway. Third misconception is that food dyes are always labeled clearly on food products. And the truth is they have to list them, but they don't have to specifically use their common name. So for example, a common name might be Red 40, but the chemical name might be Allura Red AC, and they have to label it clearly, but they can label it one way or another as long as it's included there. So if you are listening to this on a podcast platform, you want to look at a list of all the different names for food dyes and common chemicals, then come on over to YouTube and you'll see in the description that there is a link to a list of these common dyes so you can refer to it when you are going grocery shopping. So some tips to avoid these things, if it's important to you, is to number 1, ignore misleading buzzwords. All natural, gluten-free, multigrain, these are half-truths. Go back and listen to my episode where I talk about reading ingredient labels and ingredient lists. It is the key to you being an advocate for yourself, and I go in depth in this. Read the label. Remember, you want to pick out things that have as few ingredients as possible, and you want to be able to pronounce all of them. You want to focus on nutrient-dense whole foods, so animal protein, veggies, healthy fats, unprocessed dairy if you tolerate dairy, and if you're going for fruits, your best bet's going to be berries because they're highest in fiber, lowest in sugar, highest in antioxidants. And then if you can, if your wallet allows, choosing organic brands when possible. But the great thing is right now there's a lot of brands coming out that aren't necessarily organic, but still provide real food ingredients. And one of them that I like is called Simple Mills. So now you understand how the FDA works or how it doesn't work, what the Skittles ban really is, and why it's best just to not eat the candy in general, no matter what the recipe is. You understand the common misconceptions around food dyes and how to find them in your foods and what to look for when shopping. I hope that you got a lot of value from this episode. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, please leave a review and follow us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please drop a comment below. I love reading them. I want to help you in any way possible to get in the best diet and feel the best in your mind and body as possible. So please subscribe and remember to make the change you've got to step up. Lead with your heart, train your mind, and do not negotiate with your body. See you next time.